Welcome to the All Things Real Estate Podcast with our very own Josh Barker. With more than 20 years of experience and over 5,000 properties sold, Josh brings a unique perspective to the real estate market. Let's get started.
So it's September. We're back.
We are back. I missed you, man. You weren't here for us last month.
I was in Alaska.
I had my beautiful, you were. Tell me what you were doing in Alaska.
2 guesses, and the first one doesn't count.
Okay. Hunting?
First one doesn't count. The second one.
I don't know.
Do these hands look like the hands of a hunter, Josh?
Well, you know that the word vegetarian really stands for?
Can't hunt?
Yes.
Unable to hunt? Yeah. No, I'm definitely a carnivore, or a pescivore as it was at this. No, when I went to fishing, visit family, it was gorgeous. So, but I watched the episode and it was awesome. That was really cool to see you and your daughter interact on.
It was actually cool
on camera. It was very cool.
Yeah.
So, but I'm back.
Yes, you're back.
And I passed her in the hallway and she gave me a dirty look, like took my spot. I was like, fair enough.
She likes the camera.
Yay.
All my kids like the camera.
Very nice. Well, they're photogenic. But okay, so it's Labor Day's passed, so it's officially the end of summer. We've gone into September, and the big news in real estate, or at least one of the big news in real estate, is that the feds are saying, "Hey, we're probably going to lower interest rates."
Yeah, that's some pretty big news.
And what effect does that have on
mortgages and stuff?
I mean, I know it's not guaranteed, but
yeah, I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag because, for the Federal Reserve to want to cut interest rates, they're also suggesting that the unemployment rate is growing. It suggests that the inflation rate's going down, which is good, and that the economy overall is slowing down. So those are factors that apply into whether or not they lower the discount rate. In this case, that's what they're talking about doing here in September. I'm not sure when this podcast will actually hit, but that my best guess is right now is it'll be a quarter point. That they're going to reduce the rate by. I think that the stock market has already made some adjustments for that. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a half a point or not would probably have a lot more to do with if there's any more bad news between this podcast and when they actually make the announcement sometime in the middle of this month. But all things are saying that rates are going to start to go down. We're going to be going into an environment where the rates are starting to go down. And for our listeners, it's not directly tied to the mortgage rate. But it has an impact because when bond investors, when they buy mortgage-backed securities, when they realize that the rate environment's going down, they actually buy the bond at the highest point they can. Part of the reason why is because they want to secure some rate of return for a period of time. And that actually brings the bonds, the mortgage-backed security rate down itself, So we expect rates to be on the way down now.
I hope the listener is taking notes because there will be a quiz at the end of this.
That's kind of a complicated thing. Bond market's tough, but long-term, big picture, yes, the rate environment looks like it's now going to cycle back down, which will affect buyers, obviously, on the affordability side. Mm-hmm. My only concern, I think, is that in the short term, it could likely cause prices to inflate a little bit because rates need to still come down quite a bit before those folks that are sitting on that 3% mortgage.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to give it up for 6s. They may not even get it up for high 5s, but at some point, around 5, I think, is when they'll start to see more of those types of sales taking place.
Do you think we're going to be in the 5s again?
Oh, yeah. I think by the end of next year, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, at the end of 25, I think it's highly likely that we'll be there.
Wow. See, because the stuff that I've been listening to is they think, okay, we're going to lower the interest rates, probably lower them more than once. Probably,
Mm-hmm.
But what'll happen is it'll start the whole inflation thing again. And then they'll be like, okay, we got so like the things that I'm listening to, they were thinking like the second quarter of next year, they'll probably have to go, okay, enough of the lowering, let's go back. So I think a lot of people that are sitting on, rates got as high as 8%, right?
Yeah, they did.
A lot of people are sitting
mortgage rate.
Yeah, mortgage rates are sitting in the 7s. And so, we're at what,
6.75 right now.
Okay. So if it gets down to 5s, there's going to be a rush of refinance as well. So
we're already seeing that now, but that's another topic. I was talking to a lender here the other day, and it was really concerning. They had their loan applications had increased by over 30% in the last 90 days for refinancing.
Yeah. Well, if you're sitting on 8%.
Well, no. These are people that have already owned homes with mortgage rates that were lower.
Oh, no.
Lower than what they're refinancing for. So what's happening right now in the economy is you have people that are sitting at homes with a little bit of equity, with an interest rate, let's say at 3 to 4 or 5%, whatever it is. And now they have credit card debt that at 21%, and they're going to try to refinance that debt into one mortgage rate. So they're going to give up a 4% interest rate and take a 6.75% interest rate just so that they can take their credit cards and fold them into that mortgage and bring their overall monthly obligations down. That's where things are at right now. I mean, and that's a 30% increase again over the last 90 days. Yeah, it's legit. I mean, that gives you more signals that the economy is actually slowing down fairly significantly, or that people are legitimately running out of money and running out of options.
Well, I think we could really go down a wormhole because I was just watching something about how our GDP and how much of our GDP compared to debt and all that. It is a math problem with so many variables. It's
the numbers are so big now. I don't think people can even comprehend it.
No, and crazy.
Yeah,
but the back to the beginning is the Federal Reserve is letting everybody know, hey, look, most likely we're going to lower rates.
Yep.
Rates are going to go down.
Yep.
If they go down a quarter of a point, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, but mortgage rates should go down a little bit. And hopefully over the next few quarters, they'll go down a little bit.
Yep.
Now that's going to affect buyers' purchasing power. But here's the caveat. That is interest rates go down, home prices are going to go up. It's going to be this real tricky.
Yeah.
That's why we said when interest rates are 8%, we said, marry the house, date the interest rate. Get your house locked in now. Because Redding hasn't seen, has it seen a softening in prices? Or because you're more plugged in than me.
No, I mean, the market right now it's definitely plateaued. I mean, year over year prices have for the most part plateaued. Okay. And it's because you're dealing with interest rates. As soon as we crossed over that 6.5% interest rate, market slowed way down in terms of appreciation. When it hit 7%, stalled, 7.5% stalled. We had 8 for just about maybe a month or so where it was really, really tight. And then it came back down off of that. But the prices overall year to year are very plateaued. And I agree with what you're saying that as interest rates go down, those same buyers are going to qualify for more. Mm-hmm. It's the seller that's ultimately going to receive the benefit of that because they'll be competing over the same products, and pricing will likely push up a little bit as a result of that. But I was just in a conversation with a client that we're selling a property for. They live in the Bay Area, and they listed their home here in town, and they bought it. They're that example. They bought it about a year and a half ago with a different company, and we weren't involved in that transaction. But they asked us to help them to sell it. They decided not to stay in Redding. They thought they were going to move up here, and they ended up not doing it. And they wanted to list it for more than what they had bought it for, which we said, okay, well, we wouldn't recommend that, but of course we're not here to say no. We'll give it a shot. And now we're having this conversation around bringing the price down, right?
Yeah.
And what the person said, and I can appreciate the question, is that the person said, well, Josh, I don't understand. Can't the buyers just make an offer? And I hear that a lot, which is why I think I'm bringing it up right now, is because I want people to hear this a little bit. I agree with what she thought, but I also shared with her this. The difference between Redding, California and the Bay Area is very simple. If you're in the Bay Area right now and you want to sell your home, there's 20 times more buyers in most cases that want to buy your home than there are homes for sale.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so you could literally list a house down there for $1 billion and it wouldn't matter. Let's say it's a $2 million property. You could list it for $1 billion. And you would still get competing offers on the home. You know why? Because there's 20 times more buyers than there are homes for sale. They're not going to offer $1 billion. They're going to offer what the value is.
Yeah, demand is so much higher than
supply.
So
they are going to just make the offer. In fact, if I was in the Bay Area, I'd probably just list everything at $1 billion and bring the offers in. We'll see where they go, right? In Redding, we have, in some cases, 6 times more homes for sale than there are buyers to buy them. In some cases, we have up to 20 times more homes for sale than we have buyers to buy them. And so that's a big problem. So price becomes a really big part of the marketing plan itself. You get what I'm saying?
Totally.
And that's the difference between those two markets. And so explaining that to a client recently, and I think the light bulb turned on like, okay, we need to get the price down. And homes right now are selling for really close to asking price. They're probably selling on average between 98, 99% of asking price. And there's no agent out there that can claim that's because of them. Homes sell for what sellers are willing to sell them for and what buyers are willing to pay. But so many buyers now, they essentially don't make an offer until they think the home is priced right. They don't negotiate as much. You've been around the world. I've been around the world. Do you do negotiating every time you do any kind of transaction in the rest of the world?
If I'm in Asia, yes. If I'm in Europe, no.
Okay. So depending on where you go.
Culture.
Right?
Yeah, cultural. Some cultures are like
Yep.
The asking price is just a starting point.
Just
Let's get into it. And others are like, look, man, this is my first offer is my last offer. It's very cultural.
Yep. Well, in America, we're a lot like Europe in that way. When we go to the grocery store, we fill up our carts. We go to the front. It tells us how much we pay. We don't negotiate.
I'm going to start doing that.
We just pay.
You think that'll work?
I'm not going to pay that number. And so consumers are kind of pre-exposed to your weight to the price is what you think it should be, and then you make an offer. And it's showing up in our sales reports because things are selling within 98, 99% of asking price. So really, there's just not a lot of room there anyway. Once the home is priced right, that's when it's going to sell. I'm
going to put you on the spot. You usually know these numbers. I can't remember the term we use. It wasn't attrition rate, but what is the how many months supply do we have of housing at the current rate, right? It tells us if we're in a buyer, seller, and neutral market.
We're sitting right now an absorption rate about 3.9 months, meaning that if nothing else came up for sale today, it would take 3.9 months to sell off all the inventory.
And that's neutral. Right?
Well, we're at the
leaning towards seller,
we're
but
at
neutral.
The very end of the tail end of the seller market. So seller market 0 to 3 months, neutral market 4 to 5 months, buyer's market is 6 months or more.
Got it.
And we're right on the edge of being at a 4 month. But it's depending on price range because in some price ranges we are already a buyer's market, and in other price ranges we are a seller's market.
Yeah.
So it does depend on the price point.
Probably your higher end market is your buyer's market.
Correct.
And I don't know where that starts. 750. I don't know, but definitely. I mean, if you're talking under 400, 425,000, it is a seller's market.
In most cases, it is.
Yeah, inventory isn't. Yeah, it's just not there.
Well, depending on topography, though, too. Because if you're in a fire land area, and insurance premiums are playing into this now. There is so many different equations that are involved in valuations right now. Like before, when I would appraise a property or assess a property for marketing, I was factoring comparable property sales, active inventory, and homes that are currently in escrow. Now I have to do an overlay of the fire insurance map for that area, because now fire insurance premiums are going to play a major impact on what that house might sell for.
That brings up the insurance landscape is pretty wild right now. I mean, we've got it's not insurance czar. What is it? The state's insurance
commissioner.
Insurance commissioner, which is an unusual thing. It's had a huge impact on insurance.
Did you just say insurance czar?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, the czar, didn't they start all of a sudden they started having czars about 10 years? Remember what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all these czars,
Yeah.
Somehow tied to the war on terror. I don't know yet. But anyway, but no, the insurance commissioner, we have that, regulates insurance prices in California. That's a little bit different. We had a huge accordion effect where they said, hey, look, we're not going to let you increase insurance rates.
Right.
So a bunch of companies leave.
Yep.
And then you finish the sentence for me.
They mess things up. They mess things up.
You said that
really bad.
I normally get to be bad cop.
Yeah.
Bad cop.
Well, on this one here, I don't even think they would disagree. They mess things up so bad. Essentially, they forgot that insurance companies are private and they are for profit. And if they're losing money, they have to make a business decision. In this case, they pulled out of the state of California.
Several did. Big ones, big names.
And a lot of them aren't coming back right now. And so what happened was the insurance commissioner comes out, years ago, this wasn't recently, and says, hey, we're going to cap what you're able to raise your insurance rates. Sounds good, right? Problem is that when these insurance companies are no longer profitable, they have one of two choices. Beg the insurance commissioner to allow them to raise their rates or leave the state. Well, they did option one and they were denied. And they were denied multiple times. And as a result of that, they ended up leaving the state. That got their attention, the state's attention, because all of a sudden now consumers are having a hard time getting insured. And then the cost of insurance starts to go up rapidly. And now they have their state insurance fund essentially that's trying to step in with a fair plan, which is kind of an unfair plan if you ask me. And it basically, and then they're trying their best to solve the insurance problem that they caused with their policy. Now they've come out with an insurance bill of rights or whatever it is, and they're trying to get insurance companies to come back. And they're basically saying, hey, we're going to let you guys set pricing based on what you need, right? They're going to allow you guys to, be able to make decisions on where you're going to insure and things like that. So in other words, we're no longer going to try to control everything when it comes to you trying to run your business, right? Mm-hmm. And insurance companies are looking at it and going, well, that sounds great in theory, but what happens 18 months from now when there's a new politician running the show? What happens when you get reelected or somebody else gets elected into that seat? Because they don't want to spend their money building an establishment of insurance here in California again, only to have it ripped down with policy. So California has put themselves in a position, and they've done it in so many different topics, but on this one, I'm so passionate about it because it's hurting people right now. It's for real. And it is a politician's fault that it's happening. And people just don't know what to do about it. Well, vote, but they won't. It's unfortunate that we're not going to be able to solve it easily.
So, when you say hurting people, what we're talking about is increased insurance rates, dramatic increases. Now, I know nationally it went up, but California went up way beyond national.
Well, the numbers right now nationally are averaging around 29% is how much they've gone up over the last several years. And part of that was because of COVID. Part of it was because of the disruption in the supply chain and labor access and things like that. So things were costing more. And so you obviously have to raise insurance policies in order to accommodate for the inflation that was probably about 29%, or if you want to accumulate over the last 4 or 5 years, right? And you're smiling because you're like, it's probably higher than that, right? And so really they went up with inflation. State of California on average, I think, was reported at 51%, but that is such a baked number, because the reality is if you're in a fireland area in Shasta, Tehama County, you're paying in some cases 300% more, 400% more. I go out on appointments now, and I will never talk about who these people are, but I've been on appointments now where they're no longer they own their houses free and clear. They can't afford the fire insurance. They're not insured. Yeah. And that is a travesty. That is a failure on their part, the way that they've approached this issue. And it doesn't matter what party you're with. This is a problem I think everybody can agree with. And what it comes down to is that any time the state wants to overregulate anything, all you do is stop the ability for businesses to run. And that's exactly where we're at now. The insurance issue is likely not to go away quickly. They did issue that Bill of Rights that allowed insurance companies to raise their premiums, which is good, because we probably would have lost more of our insurance companies. Yeah. It's an interesting thing to wait to see what happens.
Well, we're with State Farm, and they said, they told us, because we do a bunch of different insurance things with State Farm, and our agent said, I don't know if we're going to be able to renew you next year, because I don't know if we're going to be in the state. Because we do everything. We bundle. You try to save some money, right? And they're like, no, we want to do the cars and all that kind of stuff, but we don't even know if we're going to offer it next year. Just heads up.
Well, here's how smart State Farm is, and we'll move on from this. I don't want to beat up a dead horse on this, but with State Farm right now, State Farm has 2 legs to their company. They have one part of State Farm that's for 49 states in the country, and they have another one that's for one state of California. Yeah. And you want to know why? Because at any moment they can decide they're going to close that part of their company down. Just take away State Farm of California, and they'll still have the other 49 states. Yeah. That's what California has done with their overregulation and policy. It's related to the housing issue now with how many homes we're building. It's frustrating when you see politicians talk, well, I want to build 4 million homes. Really? Last time I checked, the government doesn't build homes. It's the private market that builds homes, and your policies can be punitive or they can be rewarding. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Recently, the state is coming out saying they want to create this incentive for first-time home buyers, which I can appreciate that. But all you're doing is essentially creating a higher demand. You're assessing the demand side, and you're doing nothing to solve the supply side. If you want prices to plateau in real estate in the county, if you want it to plateau in the state of California, you simply have to increase supply. And the only way you can do that is to create a policy or a regulation that allows for people to build. And they're going to target the wrong problem. They're going to give more money to first-time home buyers, which is great, but it also means that all those first-time homebuyers are going to get the same money, and that money is just going to transfer straight to the homeowner, because it's going to cause the prices of those homes to go up.
And it'll probably overshoot too. You think home prices will go up 25,000? No, it'll overcorrect. Yeah. They'll go up by 40,000, then they'll recorrect. Okay, well, hey, let's segue away from that to something built in there was new construction, because we do have some. It's a tiny bit of good news, but it is good news because there are more permits pulled this year for home building than there were last year. Correct. We're trending up because last year was really low.
Yeah, we were, through July last year, we're like 31 or so. This year, I think we're at like 51, 52 through July. But we're down from a few years ago where we would have been 130 or so by July. And so it's tough. I was talking to D.R. Horton. We have the fortune of being able to service them on some of their properties here in the county. And we have Rio, we have Monroe. They're working on Salt Creek now. I think by the end of the year, they're probably going to introduce 30, 40 lots down in Salt Creek on the west side of Redding. And so they're proactively working towards that. They've got, of course, the stuff they're doing on Rancho Road right now, Lilac, Magnolia, and those are, beautiful properties. And really, they're the ones that are bringing supply to the market at a price that as close as they can to what people can afford. And, I'm grateful for them to be here because, a lot of the other local builders right now just can't get that type of product to the market at that price right now.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm happy. Jeb Allen just announced in the last couple days that they're going to be building a 20-lot subdivision down off of Riverview and Wyndham. Gated community, over 600,000.
Gated community?
Gated community.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be interesting. I'm happy for them. I'm curious to see how the product looks when it's done. But I see builders in this town, and I have the utmost respect for builders.
Yeah.
I mean, the risks that they put in to what they do. I mean, they have to go out and find land. They have to go and get an entitlement to build on the land. They have to pay tons of money for offsite improvements and onsite improvements. They've got to do all this work just to get the privilege to even build a house on it. And then when they build it, they have to meet all those regulations we were talking about and I was complaining about earlier, and all hoping that when they're done, they can realize a modest profit.
Yeah.
The risk involved is like unbelievable.
It is.
And we need them to be willing to build. And so it's a good news thing to see the building permits going up a little bit in the city of Reading, but we still have a long ways to go.
Is the good canary in the coal mine when you start seeing the smaller builders pull permits?
Yes.
The people who build 2, 3, maybe 4 homes a year type thing.
Yeah. I mean,
when we see that, we know we've hit a turn.
There's some math to it, actually. I think the canary in the coal mine has a lot more to do with just the spreadsheet itself. Right now, it's been reported to me by some local builders that you could buy an approved paper lot for about $20,000.
What?
Yes.
In the city of Reading?
Yes. Approved paper lot, about $20,000, which means you would be approved to go move the dirt mover.
Oh, okay. I
to
see what
put
you're
in the
saying.
curb gutter street box.
Yeah.
We are not short on lots in the county at all. Right now, we probably have 1,000 that are ready to go in some shape or
Paper,
form.
meaning nothing's been done except a map has been submitted to the city and they've approved it. So yeah, just a drawing.
Yep, just a drawing, but tentative approvals and things like that. So we have a robust amount of properties that can be developed. But the canary is going to be when you run a pro forma on it, and you can see that land acquisition cost for development, cost for selling it, the cost of holding that asset until it's sold against the actual market itself. You can see the number. There's a profit there.
Yeah.
And the reason why there's not a lot of building going on is because when a lot of builders do that math right now, it's at break even. And why would you take the risk to break even, right? And so these numbers on spreadsheets are going to have to shift a little bit. We'll probably have to see home values. If the cost of construction doesn't go down, and if the cost for labor does not go down, and regulation just remain the same as it is right now, we won't have meaningful growth in new housing until houses appreciate by about 10%. We're going to need about that much room in order for builders to be able to move.
Yeah.
I mean, as a whole. I mean, D.R. Horton's pulling it off, but they're not making a lot of money. They're doing it to stay in the market, to maintain their subs, to maintain the relationships they have here. They've kind of planted a flag in Shasta County and said, hey, we want to be here. And they're trying the best they can to stay profitable until the market improves enough where they can actually realize some profits.
Well, they're also so large, they have economies of scale. I mean, they're a national level builder. I don't even know how many homes at any given time they've got, but I'm sure it measures in the thousands nationally. And so they pull profit out of places that smaller builders, there is no profit. You know what I mean?
It's tough.
Own part of their supply chain. I don't see, labor might come down. I don't know if the unemployment rate continues, they might see that, but it's got to be appreciation or something. Yeah.
Well, and it's needed now because when you talk to home builders here locally right now, all of a sudden they were all busy and now they're not, and they're already looking. They're looking right now for jobs to bid on. I mean, that's where things are at right now. They are, builders locally are looking for jobs to bid on a regular basis, where a few months ago, even a few years ago, that was far from the case.
Transition. We were, for the last few months, we talked a lot about, there were some new rules. There was this NAR settlement that came out of Missouri. There was a bunch of the sky is falling. And you were like, just relax. A lot of people were freaking out and you're like, relax. Everything's, things are going to change, but let's just figure it out. So we've gone through it now. It kicked in last month.
Yeah, beginning of August.
Is this total pandemonium? Cats sleeping with dogs? Real wrath of God type stuff, or is this nothing?
It's a big nothing burger, in my opinion. So Joey's talking about the National Association of Realtors had 2 rules changes. One rule change was buyers, before they go out to view properties, would need to sit down with an agent and sign a buyer broker agreement that covers, the fees that are involved in the sale, what the agent's scope of services are going to look like and how long the agreement is, usually not to exceed 90 days. And on the listing side, sellers, when they list their properties now, they're pretty much just listing it, covering the listing agent fee. There's a discussion now about, being open to working with a buying broker because it'll expand your market if you do. And of course, there's no advertising of commission to a buying broker on the MLS anymore. And what we've seen now after doing this for a little over a month is that sellers are listing, like I said, with just covering the listing fee. Agents are calling and asking, will your seller cooperate? Because they're trying to decide if they want to show the home or not. And we just, of course, the sellers in every case that we're working with has said yes. And so the buyers now, through their agents, are making offers on homes and then making a request that the seller pay their buying agent. So essentially, no change.
Yeah.
Right. It's just that when that's being negotiated is changed. It used to be with the listing agent would negotiate the buying agent fee and the listing agent fee up front, where now you only negotiate the listing agent fee and then you negotiate the buying agent fee as offers come in. And it's just not a big deal. And it hasn't proven to be a big deal. Where people are getting a little frustrated is that, if you go into some open houses right now, some agents are requiring you sign in, which we don't do. It's not required. National Association of Realtors said no. California Association of Realtors said no. I spoke with our local board president here about 3 weeks ago, and he said no, that you don't have to force a consumer to sign into an open house. And so we don't enforce that policy. We don't think it's appropriate for most of our clients. I'm not passing judgment on brokerages that have that policy, but we are not doing that. The other one that's out there is, whether or not you have to sign something for like a virtual tour. And they have said, National Association of Realtors, California Association of Realtors, and our local board have said that yes, and if you're going to do a virtual tour for a customer, you do actually have to sign a buyer broker agreement before you do the virtual tour. And so there's a few little things like that we're trying to work through so that all the agents are on the same page. But as I suspected, and now it's kind of coming to fruition, it's a nothing burger. This thing is going to kind of, all the wrinkles are kind of getting ironed out over the next 60 days or so. I think people will be more comfortable with it. Some agents that are not comfortable about presenting their value or presenting, the scope of services they're going to offer, they might struggle a little bit. But I think as a whole, it's going to be fine.
If you're not a lawyer, I think litigation makes everybody, so when you hear like 418 million lawyer, just everyone starts to get a little stressed.
It was a big deal.
Yeah. So, but I like that it brought, I think, a level of transparency, forced more communication. I've always felt like the buyers oftentimes weren't educated enough.
Yeah. I think the buyer broker agreement's good.
I do too. You and I talked about that a few months ago about just like, what, there needs to be more conversations. This is probably the biggest purchase of your life.
Yep.
You guys should sit down and talk some of this out because there's a lot of confusion.
Yep.
Well, am I paying it? Is he paying it? Well,
yeah.
I wonder how it would affect the loans. I didn't know if concessions or, because there's a lot of capping there, but it sounds like it just worked itself out.
Yeah, it's 2 separate issues. Sellers can still pay concessions. And as long as you're making a request for compensation for your buyer broker and that's separate from concessions, it works fine.
Yeah. And the recording of the price is still the same and everything. That was the other thing.
It's still, and nothing's changed. Essentially the seller's still paying like they did before. It's just how and when and how much is negotiable.
So I don't know if we solved anything this week. I feel like we did somebody, but it was good seeing you. It's the beginning of fall and until October, I think I'll see you in October.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Josh.
Thank you, Joy.